that we have defined our clear messages, it's time to start the most fun part of the process. Well, at least it is for me. This is the part where we use our imagination and think about the appropriate ways to reach our audience. Throughout this course, and especially in the course on 7 tips, we saw numerous examples, including comics, stories, radio dramas, plays, music, brochures, infographics, and more. Now is the time to identify which ones I want to use and how I can combine them. First, we need to take our budget into account and know what resources we have within our institution. For example, it was easy for me to create comics and drawing booklets for children because I had an exceptional designer on my team. Start by making a comprehensive list of your staff, their skills and expertise, financial resources, potential allies or donors that I can approach to support our strategy. Analyze what has worked before or in similar cases, and what has not been as effective. Remember that you can and should choose more than one communication tool to create this surround system experience, where the message reaches you from various sides and from multiple sources. Ideally, a message needs to reach you 5 to 7 times for it to truly motivate action. Let's quickly and effectively review some examples of tactics or tools you can use. Meetings. And a good presentation with a skilled speaker can be very effective for delivering a message, especially if your audience is well defined. For example, when we are designing a campaign to mobilize business owners to donate to a cause, a relatively easy tool can be to secure spaces where business owners gather. 2001. On one occasion, we were invited to the monthly meeting of a local business chamber, and I also managed to be a special guest at the board meetings of 2 of the most important banks in the country. After each presentation, a brochure was also provided so that interested parties could learn more. Just a brochure is another tactic, but identify if there are events or spaces where you can present your message. Also, as part of meetings, there are those directed at the press and other media that can significantly amplify your message. A presentation with a press conference can be an ideal way to communicate your message. Here, when talking about the media, remember that you must always prepare a press release with the information you want the media to use. If you include good images or even videos, you will make the media's job easier, and it will be more likely that they will use the material. The press release has its own characteristics, and we are sharing a guide that you can use when you need to create one. Another commonly used tool is brochures, whether in printed versions or digital versions. There are creative ways to make our brochure stand out and generate curiosity. The brochure is very useful when we want to provide a bit more detail, but the fewer words you use, the better. It's horrible, but true. There are studies that show that people read up to 10% of material that interests them. That is, they skim quickly, look at the images, read the headings, sometimes read a box, and that's it. There lies the importance of having a good editorial design. Use different font sizes, boxes, and plenty of images. Your message needs to be expressed in different ways, such as a fact, an image with a caption, or a headline, to ensure that there is some element that captures attention. And even if the person doesn't read all the details, they can still grasp the key messages considered important. The use of infographics within a brochure is very important. It is an excellent way to summarize technical data and make it accessible to the entire audience. Here we will look at some examples of good brochures. Let's analyze this one to identify all the elements it should have. Let's look at several examples of brochures, which can be very simple as a pamphlet. For example, here we see one that is simply a brochure, but notice how they are using many visual elements, little text, and it is super important to have the contact information. If someone wanted to know more about me, where can they contact me? Here is another example, a brochure which has contact information on one side, the cover, and inside there are some steps to follow, etc. Once again, many images, very visual, and little text. This, for example, is an example that I really like. It is a square, not a trifold as we usually see. It is a square that, when unfolded, reveals a lot of useful information on one side. So one way we ensure that people keep our brochures is because the brochure provides me with some useful information. And for example, in this case, it tells me how I can take care of my mental health and gives me some data. The use of infographics is very useful for brochures because with a good infographic, we can present a lot of information and hard data in a way that captures people's attention and encourages them to read it more than if it were a paragraph. Notice how in this brochure they are using a lot of data utilizing infographics. And on the other side, they already have the contact information and a concrete call to action that they are requesting. So someone might say, I will keep this brochure for useful information. Its creativity keeps your brochure for later use. It's a game that I can give to my kids. It's fun. I liked it and I can put it away. Again, it's something that catches my attention and I can open it. Could it also be very useful in the sense of what would happen if each of these pentagons were a coaster that contained information about my cause? So, well, it's something useful. People see it, they use it. And now it's very common for brochures to include this famous QR code. And the QR code will allow people to scan it with their phones. Remember that there are now more people with a cell phone than with a toothbrush. You can scan the QR code, and that code will take you to a web page where you can find more information. The brochure meets its purpose. The brochure lets you go where they ask or give more info. Another technique is entertainment. This includes radio soap operas, theatrical plays, and puppet shows. Using entertainment is an extremely very powerful instrument. The stories behind theatrical plays or radio soap operas allow us to make an emotional connection with our audience and furthermore, it unleashes our imagination. And the imagination, throughout human history, is what has allowed us, as human beings, to achieve what was once thought to be impossible. Also related to entertainment is music. In the course 7 Tips, we saw the example of Liberia and the musician, Talkin' J, who created a song to raise awareness about violence against women. We also saw the example that our colleague Lynn did in St. Lucia during the Fishermen's Campaign, where they used a country music song as part of the Live Drug-Free campaign. This foundation created this music video.
Yo sé que eres chiquito y que sabes ver que no todas las cosas se pueden creer. Si te ofrecen drogas te van a decir que se siente bien padre, que te vas a reír. No es cierto, no hagas caso, no es cierto. Lo que esa gente no te quiere decir es que si usas drogas te vas a confundir, que hacen daño a tu cuerpo, que envenenan tu cuerpo. Vive sin drogas.
Fundación Azteca, por un México sin drogas.
And if you ask the generation of young people in Mexico, who are now between 25 and 35 years old, I assure you they will remember the campaign with that song because the jingle is quite catchy. Let us also remember that music can be a very valuable element to complement your messages. You can play music. During the presentation, you can play music in a video. The music will enhance the emotions. On screen, we see Carla Willock, She was the first Latin American woman to remarkably and notably climb the 7 highest peaks in the world. And she incredibly runs a foundation that empowers young people to become agents of change in their communities. In addition, she is a wonderful speaker and gives presentations around the world on leadership and shares her experience. It is impossible to listen to her talk without crying from emotion. I like to analyze the elements to see what allows Carla to connect to that degree with her audience. Her story is striking. Her tone of voice and the way she designs her presentation is very professional. There is an introduction, there is a climax, and there is a resolution, and very importantly, use music. So when she narrates, when she reaches the summit of Everest and you see the images on screens 2000 and it's combined with music that elevates the moment, your skin gets goosebumps. So music, whether on its own or as a complementary element, is very powerful for any campaign. Perhaps all the examples we have seen so far have been accompanied by videos. Videos are key to being part of your 1009th in the use and communication strategy. Whether for use on social media or as part of presentations, videos are essential. It is proven that the trend in communication is through videos, and the good news is that they do not necessarily have to be highly produced videos. The most viewed videos on social media, for example, are those that manage to convey authenticity. It's a girl recording herself with using her cell phone, explaining how to make a cake or how to fix something. That's good news for everyone, because nowadays there are more people with a cell phone than with a toothbrush. So we all definitely have the potential to make a video. And don't worry, as part of this program, we will provide you with a complete course so you can create a video with your cell phone. And you will also learn to edit it using free apps. But regardless of that, keep in mind that it is very important that you can and should make videos, many videos, because it is one of the most effective ways to communicate your message. It has been proven that nowadays our brain takes no more than 3 seconds to decide whether to focus its attention on something. What does this mean? It means that when you want to communicate something, you risk everything in the first few seconds of your message. And if the trend shows that every day the preferred way for humans to receive messages is through videos, then it makes sense for us to use videos. Well, there are many more tools. So it's your turn to review the list of communication tactics we have prepared for you and analyze which ones you could use. These are just a few ideas, but I am sure that you and your team can come up with many more. And as the guide says, remember that it is important to select various tactics to create the immersive sound we have already discussed previously. And when deciding which one is the most suitable for you, carefully and thoroughly reflect on the following aspects and factors involved in this decision. Can you afford it? Can you maintain it for the time you need? Will you be able to change tactics if necessary? Will your tactics reach your audience? Is it culturally sensitive, and does it demonstrate your shared values? Are there any key dates and events? Is there any event or holiday that I can tie into? Are you being realistic about what I can achieve considering the available staff and money? Now it's your turn to use the worksheet and the questions we are sharing with you to create and choose your own techniques. Work with your team, brainstorm ideas, and follow the process to fill out the form. You will see that it will be a fun and creative process. Take your time to do it and enjoy and trust the process. Who conveys your message is just as important as what you say. The right messenger can make all the difference. It can catapult your campaign, or it can kill it. We already provided several examples when we talked about having trustworthy voices in the course of the 7 tips for effective communication. But remember that they are not necessarily famous or celebrities. They can also be community leaders, friends, family members, or someone who is already supporting your cause. If you are going to ask for donations, for example, someone who is already a donor is an excellent messenger. Testimonials are powerful voices and generate credibility. It's your turn again. Brainstorm a list of people who could be those trusted and reliable voices, and select which one you will use.